Hello, party people. Welcome back to episode 4 of my podcast. It's called Run It Back. We haven't had any people to participate in the podcast. Maybe it's for my lack of trying. I don't know. Alright, so we're going to revisit this topic because I thought it was a good topic to talk about as the weather gets nicer, as people go on vacation more. Maybe they stop by Vegas, etc. Maybe locally they go to, Mohegan Sun or Foxwoods. In case any of that stuff happens, I'm gonna run through this real fast. Okay, let me. Sorry, I'm unprepared. I forgot to do this. Okay, let me get a window capture. Let me get a. Okay. Now, you probably remember this. Hold on, just give me a second here. This is so unprofessional. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, though. We gotta stretch this to the screen. Why is this not working? What the hell? What the hell, man? Screen, okay. Here we go. Let's put me like up here. Hide all the docs information, huh? Okay. Let me adjust the title so you can see it. So this is courtesy of Mayo Clinic, right? MayoClinic.org. Is it Mayo or is it Mayo? It's Mayo Clinic, right? Okay. Really quick overview. Compulsive gambling, also called gambling disorder, is the uncontrollable urge to keep gambling despite the toll it takes on your life. Gambling means that you're willing to risk something you value in the hope of getting something of even more value. Gambling can stimulate the brain's reward system, much like drugs or alcohol can, leading to addiction. If you have a problem with compulsive gambling, you may continually chase bets that lead up to losses, use up savings, and create debt. You may hide your behavior and even turn to theft or fraud to support your addiction. Compulsive gambling is a serious condition that can destroy lives. Although treating compulsive gambling can be challenging, many people who struggle with compulsive gambling have found help through professional treatment. Symptoms. Signs and symptoms of compulsive gambling, gambling disorder, I guess that's a formal name for it, can include being preoccupied with gambling, such as constantly planning gambling activities and how to get more gambling money. I'm just going to respond to these by saying which ones apply to me and which ones don't. Being preoccupied with gambling. Let's check it off the box. Yeah, sure. Let's go with yes. If we had to pick between yes or no, let's go with yes. Needing to gamble with increasing amounts of money to get the same throw. No, I don't do that. No. Trying to control, cut back, or stop gambling without success. Usually I succeed, so we'll put a half check mark on that. Feeling restless or irritable when you try to cut down on gambling. It happens. Happens to the best of us, yeah. Like, I don't even laughing about this, but because obviously it's a serious matter, but just in terms of my life, I can't speak on anyone else's behalf, but in terms of my life, some of this rings some bells. Gambling to escape problems or relieve feelings of helplessness, guilt, anxiety, or depression. I don't do that. Trying to get back lost money by gambling more, chasing losses. I don't do that either. Lying to family members or others to hide the extent of your gambling. Others. Well, who does others include? That's all I'm trying to say. Significant others, certain friends. I mean, I don't know. We'll touch base with that again later. Risking or losing important relationships, a job, or school or work opportunities because of gambling. For me, it happens to the best of us. Usually it doesn't for me personally, but it happens to the best of us. That's what I say about that. Asking others to bail you out of financial trouble because you gambled money away. No, I do not do that. Most casual gamblers stop when losing or set a limit on how much they're willing to lose. I do that. But people with a compulsive gambling problem are compelled to keep playing to recover their money, a pattern that becomes increasingly destructive over time. Some people may turn to theft or fraud to get gambling money. It's completely true, unfortunately. Some people with a compulsive gambling problem may have periods of remission, a length of time where they gamble less or not at all. But without treatment, the remission usually isn't permanent. When to see a doctor or mental health professional? When family members, friends, or coworkers express concern about your gambling, if so, listen to their worries, because denial is almost always a feature of compulsive or addictive behavior. It may be difficult for you to realize that you have a problem. 100% true. Not even just gambling, but any addiction you can think of. 100% true. Causes. Exactly what causes someone to gamble compulsively isn't well understood. Like many problems, compulsive gambling may result from a combination of biological, genetic, and environmental factors. Some people are just prone to addiction the way they are built. In a way, they're built different, but like not in a good way. Risk factors. Although most people who play cards or wager never develop a gambling problem, certain features are more associated with compulsive gambling. Mental health issues. People who gamble compulsively often have substance misuse problems, personality disorders, depression, or anxiety. Compulsive gambling may also be associated with bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, or attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. Age. Compulsive gambling is more common in younger and middle-aged people. Gambling during childhood or the teenage years increases the risk of developing compulsive gambling. But compulsive gambling in the older adult population can also be a problem. Now, it's a good thing I don't have bipolar disorder. Gender or sex, because if it's just a sex there, I feel like that's misleading. Just saying. There's like a lack of sex or a abundance of sex cause gambling. I'm sure it doesn't help. I'm just saying, like you want like some balance. Compulsive gambling is more common in men than women. I agree. Women who gamble typically start later in life and may become addicted more quickly. These are all based on demographics and stats, I assume. I assume there's no scientific knowledge backing this up. But gambling problems among men and women have become increasingly similar. Family or friend influence. If your family members or friends have a gambling problem, the chances are greater that you will too. Medications used to treat Parkinson's disease and restless leg syndrome. Drugs called dopamine agonists have a rare side effect that may result in compulsive behaviors, including gambling in some people. Certain personality characteristics, being highly competitive, a workaholic, impulsive, restless, or easily bored, may increase your risk of gambling. I'm not denying it. A lot of those personality characteristics I have. I'm not denying it. I'm just throwing it out there that if you have those similar personality characteristics to me, then you either already do or you are at risk for developing a gambling problem. I'm just saying. Just says it right there. That's what I'm saying. Complications. Compulsive gambling can have profound and long-lasting consequences for your life, such as relationship problems, financial problems, including bankruptcy. No, obviously I don't have that. Legal problems or imprisonment. No. Poor work performance or job loss. Like define poor, because there's a difference between being burned out, as there is a difference between financial problems interfering with your work. I think we need to note the differences on those first. Poor general health. If you're malnourished, usually a reason because of that is you're spending more time gambling than taking care of yourself. Mentally and physically, of course. Emotionally to a certain extent. Suicide attempts, or suicidal thoughts. Prevention. Although there's no proven way to prevent a gambling problem, educational programs that target individuals and groups that increase risk may be helpful. If you have risk factors for compulsive gambling, consider avoiding gambling in any form. People who gamble in places where gambling occurs get treatment at the earliest sign of a problem to help prevent gambling from becoming worse. So that was Mayo Clank. Hope I'm saying that right. Okay, now if you Google, I personally, how do I know if I have a gambling problem? That's what I Googled, and these are the results. The Mayo Clinic was one of the first ones. I put like gambling problem in the second Google search, and it came up with ncpgambling.org, the National Council on Preventing Gambling Problems, I assume, .org. What is problem gambling? All right. Whether you're seeking information for yourself or a loved one, we're here to help you gain a better understanding of what problem gambling is, its impact, and how to find support. Explore the following frequently asked questions to find valuable insights and resources related to problem gambling. What is problem gambling? Problem gambling, sometimes referred to as gambling addiction or gambling disorder, is gambling behavior that is damaging to a person or their family, often disrupting their daily life and career. Anyone who gambles can be at risk for developing a gambling problem. Gambling disorder is a recognized mental health diagnosis. Some warning signs of a gambling problem are thinking about gambling all the time, feeling a need to bet more and more money often, going to try to win your money back, chasing losses like we just talked about, feeling restless or irritable when trying to stop or cut down, feeling like you can't control yourself, gambling despite negative consequences. Negative consequences can be pretty much whatever applies to your life that you consider negative, that is related to when you started gambling versus whether you think you have a gambling problem or problem gambling. I'm not sure how to phrase it any other way than that. In extreme cases, problem gambling can cause bankruptcy, legal problems, losing your job or your family, and thinking about suicide. For more information on the Psychiatric Association's criteria for gambling addiction, visit the DSM-5 at psych.org. It is, I don't know what the copyright on this page is, but is DSM-5 the latest one? I thought we're on 6. Oh, we're on 5? Well, where is this? It says copyright 2025, so I assume we're on 5. Okay. Isn't problem gambling just a financial problem? No. Problem gambling is an emotional problem that has financial and other consequences. Even if the person pays off their gambling debts, they can still have other problems caused by gambling, sometimes as a result of accruing that debt. I was about to say bet. Jeez. The only way to overcome problem gambling is to change harmful gambling habits, and social support and encouragement are a crucial part of that change. How much money do you have to lose before gambling is a problem? Are we really asking this question right now? Is this question really like a serious question? Okay, let's address the obvious answer here. No. The amount of money lost or won does not determine when gambling becomes problematic. While gambling can cause financial problems, it is not the only warning signs of a gambling problem. When gambling is interfering with an individual's relationships, job, mental or physical health, or any other area of their life, it is problematic behavior. Completely true. 100% true. Who is at risk for problem gambling? Problem gambling does not discriminate and can impact anyone who gambles regardless of economic, social, culture, or levels of education. Now, when we think of a problem gambler, right, you think of like Joe Schmo, who's like neglecting their family, they're completely addicted to gambling, they're like betting their life savings and getting in debt, etc. In some cases, illegally accruing money used for gambling, whether that be through loans or anything shadier than that. Let me just put it that way. Certain where did I leave off? Who is at risk for problem? Certain factors can increase your risk of developing gambling addiction. Genetics, environmental, medical history, and age all play a role. So it's not saying that one characteristic out there influences the entire risk for a gambling problem that you may or may not think you have. Can children and teenagers develop gambling problems? What do you think? In this age of sports betting, what do you think? I know that might seem like a college kid thing to do, like DraftKings and FanDuel and all that stuff. It is not just a college kid problem. It is well into a teenager problem. When you're making bets on sports usually, and unfortunately it always begins with sports. Because realistically, your parents are probably not letting you watch the pay-per-view for whatever fight on fight night or whatever, in Vegas, whatever. But yes, the answer is true that teenagers can develop gambling problems. The same criteria we just gone over for the past 15 minutes applies. All those socioeconomic factors, genetics, anything, they all impact problem gambling, even when you're not an adult. Even in America, when you're not 21 or older of the legal age to gamble, it happens. Whether you want to admit it or not, as a parent, it happens. And if it's happening and you know what's going on and you're encouraging it, that's usually not a good recipe. Do casinos, lotteries, and other types of gambling, quote unquote, cause problem gambling? The casino or lottery provides the opportunity for a person to gamble, but it doesn't cause problem gambling any more than a liquor store would create alcohol problems. You gotta think about that. Think about what that says right there, because a lot of people don't expect that answer to that question. A lot of people think the lottery and all that bullshit is congruent with problem gambling. When I go to 7-Eleven, I don't go there thinking, oh, let me pick up this lottery ticket on my way. Like, me personally, I don't think of that. Do people with problem gambling think of that? If that is their poison, so to speak, then yes. There are people that I know who, when they go to a place that sells lottery tickets, a gas station, whatever, this kind of shit happens. That's the way it is. What types of gambling cause the most problem gambling? Since the cause of gambling problem is a person's inability to control their gambling, any type of gambling can be problematic. However, some types of gambling do have certain characteristics that may make gambling problems worse. While these factors are still poorly understood, anecdotal reports suggest that one risk factor may be a fast speed of play. In other words, the faster a wager reaches an outcome, the more likely players may be to develop problems with a particular game. So if you didn't pick up on it, they're talking about table games. What are table games? Blackjack, anything related to poker, novelty games. I can think of Caribbean Stud, 3-card poker, 4-card poker, that game with flushes, whatever it's called, Joker poker, Pai Gow, Baccarat, etc. How do I know all this shit? Anyway, there are some games out there that I have not played. That's all I'm saying, is because I do not understand them. So I personally don't feel like that's a good investment for me. Investment as if you could invest in gambling. Okay. If you think you can invest in gambling, I got some investing advice for you. What is the responsibility of the gambling industry? Everyone who provides gambling opportunities has a responsibility to develop policies and programs to address underage and problem gambling issues. If you think underage gambling is like a myth, then I hope that you may never have kids and you see that signs of a gambling problem are present. Because it's all fun and games until someone runs into some trouble, let's put it that way. But other than that, let's just sweep it under the rug and ignore it, right? That's what we do, right? Can you have a problem? Can you have a gambling problem if you don't gamble every day? The frequency of a person's gambling does not determine whether they have a gambling problem. Even if a person only gambles periodically, the emotional and financial consequences will still be evident in their personal and family life. I'll let you guys reread that one if you have to. Stand by, I'll let you reread it. While I'll go over this, I skipped one. What is the responsibility of the gaming industry? Everyone who provides gambling opportunities has a responsibility to develop policies and programs to address underage and problem gambling issues. So just because you go to this casino and you think all they want is your money, to an extent that's true, but if you have a gambling problem and you show up to a casino causing all this ruckus and all this bullshit and you're probably drunk and they have to forcibly remove you from the casino, as in kick you out, that doesn't look good on them, and especially doesn't look good on you. I mean, like, come on. How can a person be addicted to something that isn't a substance? Because when we hear the word addiction, right, we think of a chemical, a drug, something physical that usually we're putting into our bodies that we probably know is not good for us. We probably just don't give a fuck. That's the thing. And the sooner you realize that people don't give a fuck because they're that far down the rabbit hole, there might not be anyone else who gives a fuck anymore. So if that's the course your life is taking, I suggest you get help and start over. Because normally I would say rebuild the relationships you ruined. Some bridges are broken, are burned forever. And everyone likes to think everyone has the compassion, the ability to forgive and forget. Newsflash, not everyone out there does. And the people you lose on the way of your addiction, that's your own fucking fault. Like, let's call a spade here. No one forced you to go to a casino, especially. No one forced you to take that hit. Literally, in all senses of the word, take that hit. And like, if you think you see, like, peer pressure it exists, right? But at the end of the day, if they're not forcing it down your throat, then who do you have to blame? Instead of blaming everyone else, look in the fucking mirror. Anyway, I hate to be like as judgmental as that, but like, if you're a fucking adult and you know you have a problem, it is your responsibility to seek help for that problem. Now, if you're a casual gambler like me, yes, I do consider myself a casual gambler. I'm not in debt. I never had to declare bankruptcy. Like, okay, this is an example I like to use all the time. How much money have I borrowed from my friends and family? How much do you think? Or like, to the point where like it would almost be considered that maybe there should be a contract for this type of loan. How many times do you think that's happened? If you know me, then you know how many times that's happened. If you don't, then you can be as judgmental as you want. Okay. Although no substance is ingested, right? Someone with a gambling problem gets the same effect from gambling as one might get from taking a drug or drinking alcohol. Just as a person builds tolerance to drugs or alcohol, a person with unhealthy gambling habits finds that it takes more and more of the gambling experiences to achieve the same emotional effect as before. This creates an increased urge for the activity and makes it harder to resist. That is basically drug addiction explained. Except, what are we talking about here? We're talking about a habit. A problematic habit. And if you have a degree of that to the point where not only you are concerned about it, but other people around you are concerned about it, what are you expecting? Are you expecting an intervention? Because what makes you think that if an intervention was scheduled and you showed up to some random room and there'd be a whole bunch of people you know there, like, how special do you think you are to deserve that? Think about it. How much are other people willing to help you out, knowing that you let yourself spiral down this far? You are an adult, and you need to take care of yourself like an adult. Just saying. Are individuals with gambling problems usually addicted to other things too? I wonder, what could the answer to this be? Generally, people with one addiction are more at risk to develop another. There's a yes or no answer right there. Some individuals who are impacted by problem gambling also have a problem with alcohol or drugs. In some cases, both. So it should say alcohol and or drugs. However, this does not mean that if you have a gambling problem, you're guaranteed to become addicted to other things. Of course not. Does it put you more at risk? Of course it does. Some people with gambling problems never experience any other addiction because no other substance or activity gives them the same feeling gambling does. This is what is so dangerous about problem gambling, right? It's that high. It's a high that you can't get from any other drug. You can't get it from any other substance because you know when you're ingesting that substance or that drug, right? It's pretty much a guaranteed high. Unless you're overdosing to the point that you could end up in the hospital or even worse, then you're expecting that high to come. With gambling, for some problem gamblers, when you win, that's when you get that high. When you lose, some people also get a fucking high because they're trying to chase their losses, just like this explained there. Some people with gambling problems never experience any other addiction because no other substance gives or activity gives them that high. There's also evidence of family patterns around dependency, as many people experiencing problems with gambling report that one or both parents had a drinking and or gambling problem or drugs. And I think we need to be real and be like, there are parents out there. I'm not calling them bad parents, but most likely they are. What do I know though, right? Who have drug and gambling problems, and including basically the whole world of addiction can be summarized in these three things: gambling, drugs, and alcohol. You can argue that cigarettes are another thing. You can argue that certain drugs are another thing. How many other addictions are there? The only other addiction out there that I can think that is remotely different from those big three right there is an addiction to sex. An addiction to whether it be prostitutes, whether it be random people that you hook up with at a bar, like whatever. That is a completely different dimension than what we're talking about right here. So if you think you have a sexual addiction problem to the point where you're putting yourself at risk for STDs, putting other people at risk for STDs, then I highly advise that you seek out professional help, because I can't help you with that. Unfortunately I can't. I'm joking around about it, but okay, maybe there's another one out there. Maybe number 5 is this: a love addiction. And we've talked about this on the channel before. Maybe not in this podcast, but we've talked about it before. Is it actually possible to be addicted to love? Yes, it is. Now, what kind of love are we talking about? In some cases, we can be talking about a love that doesn't exist. A love that we want to pretend exists because it makes ourselves feel better. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. How widespread is problem gambling in the U.S.? 2.5 million U.S. adults, 1% of us, are estimated to meet the criteria for a severe gambling problem in a given year. Another 5 to 8 million percent, 2 to 3% rather, would be considered to have mild or moderate gambling problems. In other words, they do not meet the full diagnostic criteria for gambling disorder, but meet one or more of the criteria and are experiencing problems due to their gambling behavior. Research also indicates that most adults who choose to gamble are able to do it responsibly. So it's not all doom and gloom here, right? There's plenty of people out there who gamble, they lose some money, they say, you know what, I'm trying not to make that happen again, I'll be smarter next time. No, it's just that I was on vacation and I wanted to gamble. That's all there is to it. If you can't afford to lose whatever you're gambling with, then maybe you shouldn't fucking be gambling. How widespread is gambling in the US? About 85% of U.S. adults who have gambled at least once in their lives, with 60% having gambled within the past year, some form of legalized gambling is available in 48 states plus the District of Columbia. The 2 states without legalized gambling are Hawaii and Utah. That is fucking crazy that Hawaii doesn't allow gambling. You know how much fucking money they would make if Hawaii had gambling? But maybe that's a concern, is that it is something too indicative of tourism. And if you don't want your state's tourism, your state's population, your friends and neighbors, etc., to be associated with that, then yes, I understand why a United States would not have gambling legally. We're not just talking about in person there. We're talking about online gambling as well. Because your IP address can be attached to a certain region in a certain country, blah, blah, blah. We should all know this. You'd be surprised how many people don't know this. What is the national social cost of problem gambling? NCPG, which is what this website is, ncpgambling.org, is /help-treatment FAQs. What is problem gambling? To wrap things up, NCPG estimates that the annual national cost of problem gambling is $14 billion with a B. There's people on this planet who are the richest people in the world who do not have $14 billion worth of money to waste on gambling. These costs include gambling-related criminal justice and healthcare spending, as well as job loss, bankruptcy, and other consequences. I'm not going to outline to you what those other consequences are, because we've talked about them already. Use your fucking imagination and look at what your priorities are. What is important to you in this life? And then ask yourself, is gambling more important than that? Is gambling more important than those things? And if you think gambling is more important than like a steady paycheck, just because the dopamine, the rewards, if any, don't come as fast as possible, that's not a good sign for you. Because you're gambling. See, people don't need to understand this, right? This is a big thing people need to understand. Just because you're gambling doesn't mean you're going to win. In terms of odds, you're designed to lose. Mathematically, you're designed to lose. This is a situation where if it's healthy, if it's controlled, if it's safe, then it's fine. But if you start developing some concerns and some issues, then it might be time to take a break, talk to a professional. Like, there's therapists out there, there's clinicians, there's people for this. To some extent, can psychiatry be involved? Yes. Does it help? I don't know. Everyone is different. You have to figure out what helps for you. And like, a lot of people are out there thinking, right? So, why is he making this video? Like, does he think he has a gambling problem? I think I have problematic gambling symptoms. Do I have a full-blown gambling problem? I personally don't think so. People I've talked to, yes, you heard exactly what I just said. People I've talked to don't think I have a gambling problem. They think I enjoy it a little too much, and I might, jump the gun in some cases, or, like, be too easily influenced by delusion that gambling will help you hit that jackpot so you never have to work again in your life. Is that possible? Of course. Does it happen to anyone that we know? Probably not. Just saying. I mean, there's a reason why when people win lottery winnings, right? You never hear about them again. You know why? Because they don't want people running up to them, hitting them up for money. That's why. But when you win a significant amount of money, people come out of the fucking woodwork. They come out of caves. They come out of like trunks of cars. They come out of red rooms. Like, people you've never ever heard of will come up to you and be like, can I borrow some money? Why do you think that is? I mean, not even with just gambling. This is an entirely different topic. Maybe we'll talk about it in the future or not. The almighty dollar I want you to think about that. Why do they choose the word almighty? Because for some people, they worship the dollar more than they do their God. I want you to think about that. Their depiction of God and who he or she is just as strong as gambling, if not stronger. I want you to think about that. People who worship on Sundays or whatever day, whatever, whoever their God or gods may be, they are more addicted to gambling than they are their own faith and religion. Something they probably grew up with. And gambling has taken over that. Gambling is more important than that. Something they were raised to believe is more important than that. Just let that sink in. Where did I leave off? This estimate was based on the formula developed by research from the 1999 National Gambling Impact Study Commission and updated to account for inflation and the current U.S. adult population as of December 2023. We're not talking about a study, research that came from the 1990s. We're not talking about that. Before the year 2000, before the millennium. We're not talking about that data. We're talking about the data within the past year or two. This is recent data. And personally, do I think the pandemic helped with gambling? No, I do not. I think the pandemic, online gambling, made problem gambling exponentially greater and more devastating than at any point we have seen in the history of mankind. I want you to think about that. Because of 2020, gambling is out of fucking control. It is taking over people's lives, their safety, and those of the people around them. And the sad part is, the people who put gambling and themselves above others, they probably have no one to care about in this entire world. And those are the most dangerous people when it comes to gambling addiction. Thankfully, they're only endangering themselves and not others, but that doesn't make it any more better. I mean, if you want to believe that every life matters, etc., then fucking talk to your friend, talk to your coworker, talk to your family member that you suspect has a gambling problem, and take care of this when it's at least only starting. Don't let it get to a point where it becomes out of control. I can't urge you enough about that, but if you don't believe me, there's some stories I could tell you. Contact me IRL or offline. There's some stories I could tell you that you probably never knew about that are personal. Other stories with people I know. You have no idea how powerful a gambling addiction is. You will be doing things you never thought you'd fucking do in your entire fucking life. And the worst part is, you can't see it. If I was addicted to meth, you would see indications of me not taking care of myself. You would see me malnourished. I probably have other drug problems and other money-related problems, because at the point of addiction, physical addiction, that becomes the most important thing for you. When gambling hits, right? And let's say you do hit a decent jackpot, maybe not a millionaire jackpot, but a decent one. Why do people develop other addictions later? Because they either think it's time to win some more money, or they think, what else can I do to get a different high, but still a high nonetheless. Alright guys, that was episode 4. I believe we're on episode 4 of Running Back, where we talked about problem gambling. Alright, I gave you guys the resources. You have it here. The hotline, conveniently enough, is 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, what is the reasoning the word gambler comes with the same number of letters as the 7-digit phone number? maybe it's just a coincidence, right? Alright guys, take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks for watching.